Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Living Well with Coach Racquel. I am your guide as you are on your wellness journey. Each week, we come together to talk about practical ways that you can stay well, as well as promoting different entrepreneurs and people who are in the business of wellness. And when I say the business of wellness, I mean everything, because wellness is about everything that we do from the time we're waking up in the morning to the time we're going to sleep. And it's just about living on purpose and making sure that we're doing things each day that are going to actually support and build our wellness versus doing things that are actually going to take away from it or diminish it. So today I have a really great show lined up for you. But before I do that, I want to thank the She Is Still Dope Network, who is my parent company, who is doing amazing things with really bringing purpose-driven women together. And so just a big shout out to them. If you are interested, please check them out on all social media platforms at She Is Still Dope in all of those platforms, or you can check them out at She Is Still Dope.tv. So clearly I'm tongue-tied today. And that is perfectly okay, because today we are talking about gratitude. And really, we're going to talk a little bit about what it is, the science behind it, and then what we can do to really build that gratitude muscle. And so, again, I am Coach Racquel. I'm the founder and CEO of Fit to You Wellness, and I promote well-being for employees, staff, really helping to make sure that companies are supporting their employees' well-being. So if you're interested, definitely check me out there, www.fit2you wellness. So let's jump right on in after that long introduction. So I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say the word gratitude. And as we are coming up on, the holiday for Thanksgiving, gratitude is such a great place to start, and something that really needs to be talked about, especially as it relates to all that is going on in the world today. And I know so many people have different opinions about the holiday as it comes up. And so today we're not really talking about that part of it. And so whatever your beliefs are or whatever your feelings are around the holiday, one of the big things is that bringing gratitude, this is a great time for us to just remember what we are thankful for. So when we're defining gratitude, the actual definition around it is the appreciation of benefits received, affording pleasure or contentment. And then one of the interesting ones that I found, it says pleasing by reason of comfort supplied or discomfort alleviated. And I love that one. It's kind of like a tongue twister as, you say it, but it's really around the fact that gratitude is about appreciating something that other people are doing for you, appreciating where you are, but also using that gratitude to alleviate the discomfort that we are feeling. Especially now, there's not one of us that hasn't had some type of association with this pandemic, whether our loved ones have gotten sick, whether we've lost loved ones, whether the stress of it all, the pressure of it all has come down on you. I think everybody at some point just kind of has that breakdown day where it's just like, you can't believe your eyes or what you're seeing. And all of that is normal and all of that is okay. And I think as we're talking about gratitude, it's really about finding that place to be able to have those tools, simple things, right? We're always talking here about practical. It doesn't take much time to be grateful, and it doesn't cost you anything. And there are no negatives, no downsides, no side effects to actually showing gratitude. And so it's one of those things that cures so many things, and yet it has no downsides to it. So from the science end, just because I love research and I love learning, the science end of gratitude, there have been so many research studies that have shown the effects of gratitude from healing people, people not necessarily feeling the pain and discomfort of some of their symptoms. It's helped people to sleep better. It's helped people to reduce their stress. It's helped people to look at their situations differently. It's helped people with trauma. That's a big one. So many people have experienced trauma. And there have been studies that have shown that when gratitude is actually utilized in terms of trauma afterwards, it actually increases their ability to heal from the trauma. And they also have less symptoms from those who actually are not utilizing gratitude as a tool and a coping mechanism. So it's not just, something that we say to people, be grateful. It's actually science behind it. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. One of the things that I did want to bring up to you is the reasons that sometimes we don't use gratitude. And I'm sure each of you has had an encounter where something has happened and you just don't feel like being grateful. I know some of my friends always laugh because I'm always the one that's coming in like, hey, listen, you can be grateful. Or, I've always got some type of encouragement for people. But sometimes when you're going through things, you don't want to hear those positive things. And so I like to call it the pity party, right? Sometimes we love to have a pity party and we like to really sit in that space. Sorry, as I'm shooing my son away. Oh my goodness, these times are so hilarious. He's made it into quite a few of my presentations, by the way. But this time, I was able to catch him before he intervened and had his little spotlight. But yeah, so when it comes to gratitude, sometimes we just have these pity parties. Something has happened, and this is never to negate what you are dealing with. Everyone has a moment and we all have different perceptions of what we're dealing with. So I don't want anyone to take this as if I'm saying, oh, whatever you're going through, deal with it. Or, you're going to be, telling you how to deal with your pain, or, to what magnitude that pain is felt by you. This is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in order to kind of move through those things, we have to use tools. We have to kind of reach out for help. We have to do something because otherwise we fall into these pits of despair. And so when I'm talking about the pity party, all of us enjoy it. There's not one of us here or under the sound of my voice that doesn't enjoy a good pity party sometimes as we're going through things. And I know that's such a negative word to use, but I like to use it because that's exactly what it is. We're going through something and sometimes we want to sit in it. And it does depend a little bit on the severity of it, but there's something that feels good about it. That's why we call it the pity party, because there's something that feels good about being sad, being mad, during certain times in our lives. And again, you have to decide where you use this and how you use it. But when it comes to those of us who are enjoying pity parties in our moments, it really does. It just feels good to kind of be angry, and you don't want anybody to intervene and shine sunshine on you. But what I will say is that we do have to sometimes give it a time frame. We have to sometimes allow ourselves to have the pity party, especially if it's something that's not huge. When it comes to losing a loved one or something like that, there's so much more that goes into that. So that is not what I'm talking about in this space of a pity party. I'm talking about, something happened that disappointed you, someone did something that was frustrating, and we want to have that pity party. We want to vent. We want to have these moments. But it's really important to give yourself a time frame. And I know my husband, for many years, he's always been like 24 hours. That's his time frame. And after the 24 hours, if it hasn't been dealt with or, whatever, he's letting it go because that's his coping mechanism. And I think there is so much to be said about that, because sometimes we do have to give ourselves a cutoff. Like, all right, I'm going to give myself another, day, another 2 days. And then it's time for us to begin to utilize these tools that we have in our basket. And gratitude is definitely one of those. The other reason sometimes that we forget about gratitude is just life gets in the way. We get busy. Some of us are moms. We have so many things jam-packed on our schedule that we forget to take time out for ourselves. And so it's so important that when it comes to self-care, that we're planning that into our days. And I often tell my clients and give them, the same suggestion that just like you would schedule out a doctor's appointment, we have to begin to schedule out our self-care and some of these tools that we have in order to sustain the longevity of what we're doing and the success that we have around it. So that's the second thing. And then the last thing that I want to talk about as it gets in the way of gratitude is hurt feelings. There are so many times when, our expectations aren't met, our feelings are hurt, somebody said something that we didn't like, there's a breakdown in a relationship. And oftentimes gratitude gets in the way there too, because we want to hold on to those feelings. Like, how dare he talk to me that way? How dare she? I can't believe she did that. And I'm going to hold tight, because if she doesn't come back and say something, then, I'm not going to say anything. And, all of these emotions get in the way. But at the end of the day, when it comes to wellness is a personal journey. So all of those things that are happening to us on a daily basis, if we aren't willing to stand up and say enough is enough, then it's going to continue. It's going to continue to happen. You're going to continue to feel sad. You're going to continue to be in that space. And that space is what takes people. And often, it's almost like quicksand. It's like you get in there, and then the more you fight around with it, the more it just kind of drowns you down. And so part of wellness is just utilizing these tools that sometimes may take a little longer for us to get the results that we're looking for. But ultimately, it's going to help you to keep moving forward versus staying stuck or reverting back to places that we no longer want to be in. And again, each person is going to be different. So I always say, meet yourself where you are. Like, where are you? What is it that's kind of holding you or keeping you stuck? And then work from there. And so when we're talking about gratitude, one of the things that we really have to do and really understand is that gratitude, and I've talked to you already about the science behind it, right? There's so many research studies that have shown how important gratitude can be. But I'm sure all of you can think of a loved one or someone that who's been going through like a terminal illness or something like that, but they're the happiest person that you've ever met, right? You look at these people and you're like, oh my gosh, like, how can I even, you know what I mean? Like, we start judging ourselves off of it. Like, how can I even be upset about something when they're going through so much and yet they're able to do it? And oftentimes it's in those people where in some of these research studies that are showing that their gratitude, like their ability to just be grateful in the moment for whatever it is so high. And the thing is, we don't need to wait until we have a terminal illness or we're losing someone to begin to practice this, because research also shows that the more that you practice gratitude, the more that you begin to create that post-traumatic growth, so that if you do end up going through a traumatic experience, your ability to recover from it is so much higher. And so it's so important that we start to develop these tools before we even need them, right? And so I'm going to just give you a few things that you can do, simple, easy things to do to build that gratitude muscle. So when we think about gratitude, it really is like a muscle. If you want to lift weights and you want to go into the gym and you have, some goals around, building your body and getting stronger, there's things you got to do. And it's the same thing with gratitude. It's not just going to come to you because you say, I want to be more grateful. There are certain people who naturally are more grateful than others. That's just part of life. But for most of us, gratitude is something that we have to build on. And so the first thing about being grateful, just like if you wanted to go and, get stronger in the gym, you've got to create a plan, right? So you've got to first identify what you want from it, right? So if I know that I want to be more grateful and I know that I want to have more peace in my life, then I've got to figure out ways that I can build it in my schedule. And so one of the things, and a really easy way to begin building gratitude in your schedule is to do it. Like when you wake up in the morning, before you do anything, before you pick up your phone, before you put your feet to the floor, after you've prayed, if you already have some routines that you have, and prayer time is gratitude. We all want to ask God for something. God, can you do that? But that gratitude is that praise, right? And that worship of being able to thank God for all that he's done for you. And so, the morning time is a great time to begin adding gratitude. And you can do it for 1 or 2 minutes. It doesn't even have to be, even if you just say, all right, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for this morning, and you can choose. And when you start, it might be real surface. Like, I'm grateful that I'm breathing today, and I'm grateful that I have arms and legs. But the more that you do it, the deeper that you start to go with that gratitude. I'm grateful for the family that I have. I'm grateful for the mind and the wisdom that God has given me. I'm grateful for the ideas and the creativity. You can really start to get a little deeper with it the more that you practice it. The other time that you could really do and show gratitude is before you go to sleep. And this actually, there have been some studies that have even shown that being grateful before you go to sleep helps people who struggle with sleep. And so same thing, right before you're getting ready to go to bed, just think of 2 to 3 things, that you're grateful for that have happened for the day, or something that has happened in the past that you can use just to kind of remind yourself. Because now when you get ready to close your eyes and go to sleep, your mind has just attached to something positive. Most of the time when we're getting ready to go to sleep, we are thinking of all of our to-do things, all the things we have to do tomorrow. And we have all of these things that we're rattling off. So when you get ready to go to sleep, all those things are still on our minds. And therefore, a lot of times we have these restless sleeps because we're constantly thinking of things. But when we really make it a point to be more grateful in the moment and to be more grateful for what's kind of happened throughout the day, then we give ourselves an opportunity to we give ourselves an opportunity to really have our brains in that moment to kind of settle, and then that's what we're thinking of. I often tell people our brains aren't able to do 2 things at the same time. So even though many of us, especially women, are great at multitasking, in one moment, our brain cannot do 2 things. So we can't think of a negative thought and a positive one at the same exact moment. So even, if you had a really bad day, at the end of the day, take some time to be grateful, because now your mind is going to be thinking about those good things versus the positive things. The other time to use gratitude is throughout your day. If you're just in a moment to just think about it. Sometimes I set alarms on my phone. There's all kinds of ways to begin to plan to build that gratitude muscle. But just to remind yourself, like, all right, in this moment that I'm doing absolutely nothing, what is something that I can be grateful for in this moment? I'm grateful that I'm here with you guys today, or you ladies today, to have this opportunity to be on this show and to have this platform to share practical tips that you can use. It's a moment of gratitude. It took me less than a second to do that. And yet the health benefits of it over and outweigh anything else that I could be doing right now in this moment. The other thing with gratitude, and I just love saying this word, but it actually changes the neuroplasticity of our brains. Like, our brains are actually able to change. And that, I think, for me, was one of my biggest aha moments in my wellness journey. Is just that a lot of times we think things are the way they are. Like, this is who I am. This is how it is. But that's not really true. If we are taking time, and actually it doesn't really matter on both ends, whether it's something negative or positive, but different experiences, different things that happen to us actually change the neuroplasticity of the neurons of our brain, and the mapping and the way that our brain is wired. And so we really do have to pay attention and be careful and conscious of what we're putting into it. Different traumatic situations will change the way that our brains are wired. But the same thing is true for gratitude. We are grateful on purpose. It actually changes the way that our brains are wired over time. But you got to practice it. You got to keep doing it, because then instead of your brain naturally going into the negative space, which it might be used to, now our brains will start to rewire to go into those positive spaces. So for those of you who are interested and who like that word just as much as I do, the neuroplasticity, definitely look it up, because it really is. And it shows up at so many times. The reason that our brain does that is because it's able to adapt. It's where evolution comes from. It's why sometimes we don't understand our teenagers. I remember, I taught middle school for many years, and I could not figure out for the life of me why teenagers acted a certain way. And so I was like, I got to figure this out. And as I did the research, I realized that in that age, those teenage years, so all of you who have teenagers at home, their brains are going through a really big dumping stage where they're letting go of information. They're only using a certain portion of their brain, which is why teenagers are more likely to do things that make no sense to anyone else. It's like, common sense should tell you not to do that. Well, in a teenage brain, because their brains are going through that process of dumping, they are using the pleasure part of their brain most of the time, which is why they do things that to them seem like a great and fun idea. And so, not only does it happen to us as teenagers, but it happens to us throughout our lives, whether it's something that happened through an experience or if it's through learning, right? That's why the more and more we're reading books, the more and more we're rewiring our brains through that learning process. The more and more that we're creating these connections with other people, the more and more we're rewiring our brain to learn that that's what works for us. That's what we like. That's what we enjoy. And it's also that same process that helps us to make changes in our lives. So I know I'm a little off there, but I just want you to know that there's so much depth to gratitude. It's not just something that we do for the sake of doing it, but when it comes to wellness, building and developing that sense of gratitude is not only shaping who you are, it's actually changing you from the inside out. People who are grateful are more empathetic to other people. They're more helpful. They're more serving. Servant, that attitude of servitude comes from the space of gratitude. When we're grateful, we're more at peace in our lives and less likely to be angry at other people. There's a woman, Tabitha Brown, that my husband listens to all the time. And I love, at the end of her segments, she says, something, I don't even know exactly verbatim, but I know she says something along the lines of, go out and have a good day. And if you're not having a good day, don't mess up anyone else's. And it's so, so true. When we are grateful and when we're constantly building that gratitude, we're less likely to go out and mess up somebody else's day or, to be the one that's kind of starting some of the drama in other people's lives, because we're more conscious. We're also more at peace, which means that our heart is more open to really being able to help and to watch out for those spaces where we can support other people. So I hope all of this was helpful. Again, some really easy things. You can either start a gratitude journal, for those of you who like to write. You could create a gratitude list. And it's also great to be able to go back there sometimes, especially when you're having a bad moment. Go back to that list, go back to your journal and see, what are some things that you can be grateful for if you can't quite remember it in that moment. Gratitude jars are another great thing that I've seen people use. Just get you an empty jar, get you some strips of pieces of paper, write it out. Some people will write scriptures and prayers, and put those things that you are grateful for inside of there and start to build that gratitude muscle. So again, I just want to thank you for today, for those of you who have shown up. Hopefully this was really helpful to you. If you have more questions around gratitude, or if you're looking for some support to kind of help you get through something that you're going through at this time, be sure to check me out at Fit to You Wellness, www.fit, F-I-T, the number 2, Y-O-U Wellness. I offer support sessions, support coaching sessions for people who are really just looking for support, especially now in this pandemic. You do not need to feel alone. And I hope all of you have an amazing holiday, whatever that looks like, whatever it is that you're believing in. Most importantly, just make sure you're believing in yourself, believing in the fact that we all are one. We all are here for a purpose, and we all are truly loved by God. So I thank you. And I will see you guys next Monday as we will be talking about wellness gifts. So if you are looking for some holiday gifts and some new gift ideas, definitely join me next Monday at 7 for one of our first wellness gift segment. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.